everyone. Today I have a very prominent guest. You've seen him many times, and he's a author. He's written 4 books. He has translated many books. And again, why I'm telling you about him, maybe you are seeing this video for the first time. This gentleman has been the voice of a very large non-profit organization in India, and their focus is on education. And whatever they do is mostly education purposes, and they have single-handedly served the dharmic community in a very significant way across the globe. Needless to say, they are one of the largest organizations in India, and they have done in every social sphere of India. They have done something for the Indian community. So, without delay, I'd like to bring on Shri Ratan Chowdhury. And welcome, Shadaji. Namaskar. And so Namaste is in. So Americans, you see, Namaste is in now. It's a fashion now. So before we start off everything, especially to my students who are watching from the colleges, so RSS has been demonized by the leftist, liberal, and mostly Islamic organizations in the USA. But there is a large Indian community, almost like 4 million people. They love it in many ways. So, what are the key educational principles that they teach that people are more and more youth are joining them?
See, Aditya, RSS came up in 1925, as you may be aware, and it was founded by Dr. Hedgewar, who had worked with revolutionaries, who had worked with Congress Party for many years, and he was one of the senior leaders of Vidarbha region of India. And then he realized after the Khilafat movement, which I talked about in one of your talks, which was a typical appeasement of the very, very orthodox Muslim leadership as compared to giving up on the modern educated Muslim leadership, which set the ground for this kind of politics. So from there on, when he realized that there were continuously 3 years of riots, he realized that unless the Hindus are united, unless the Hindus have pride in their culture and their nationhood, even if the independence comes, it will not lead to really a welfare state as per the Indian ethos and Indian traditions. He also realized that the defeat of India as a nation and the slavery for 1000 years was basically because of disunity of Hindus for fighting against each other on basis of religion, caste, creed, region, and whatnot. Every kind of smallest things they would put up a fight. So he decided to unite Hindus into into some kind of united force, which will think of the nation, which will think of the society, rather than just for their own self-interest. So this particular organization was not meant to be against anybody. It was meant to liberate India from slavery from British. That was part of the oath of RSS, that they have to get this country free from British, and then to have a society which has dharmic values. I would like to just stress the point that dharma is not religion, which dharma doesn't have a parallel or synonymous word in English. That is the reason there is huge confusion between religion and dharma. In the Hindu dharma, you have got host of sects and various denominations, various matams, various faiths, as you call it. So there used to be Shaiva, there used to be Shakta. There were people who believed in Buddha. There were people, new religions which came out of it. Then you had Advaita, you had non-Advaita. All these things came out one by one. Reforms kept on happening. It was a very, very dynamic place where new ideas came up, new religions came up. The basic framework of dharma never changed. That basic framework of dharma, which talks about respect for all religions, sarve bhavantu. Then it talks of, as we know, ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. It talks of sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukh bhag bhaved, which means this dharma talked about welfare of everybody, health of everybody, happiness of everybody. There was no exception. So this was a very, very enlightened way of looking at life, as I talked in some other places, where you had a very, very principled way of living your life. desire from why you came to earth, because there was always a question by great people, why I have come to this earth, why I am born. So this question was answered by the Hindu sages for long years. So this particular way of having pluralist life, the basic republic of faith, is born of out of Indian soil. So this was the philosophy on which RSS was created. After, if you go to the history of RSS, during partition, RSS SWAYAMSEVs laid down their lives, risked their own families, their businesses, their earning, to save people when millions of people were being butchered, killed. So they were brought to India. Women were brought to safety during Jammu Kashmir. First attack by Pakistan in 1947-48. SWAYAMSEVs are everywhere. RSS people were right on the front. Hundreds of them lost their lives. So this history is behind how RSS actually work for the society. And as you come after that, over the years, slowly the new developments happened. As the RSS more and more SWAYAMSEVs started feeling more work needs to be done. So one by one, organizations came out. One of the earliest organizations was Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, which was meant to work with students, and students who would be influenced to have national feeling, nationalist thoughts, and who would work for the nation and not just think of short-term gains. There was Kushta Nivara Sangh, which was for the removal of taking care of people affected by leprosy. And then there was Vanvasi Kalyan Ashram, which was meant to work in the tribal area. So every SWAYAMSEVak who had a thought came up with a longer serving, would bless them with required manpower, support them, and that would go into creating a new organization. Then Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh came, which is the labor organization, which goes against the way the left and the communist people had trade unions. When they were only talking about capitalist war against capitalist and continuous struggle, revolution. So this Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh came with the Indian ethos, Indian ideas, where they said whether the owner or the worker belong to the same family, disputes can be solved, but there is no need to destroy the property because that is our place where we work. And various other enlightened thoughts. In fact, they started with the idea of income ratio not being more than 1/10. So this highly India-rooted labor movement became number one movement. Then there was Saraswati Shishu Mandir, which is basically starting of the educational initiative, which you talked about. It was started by Deen Dayal Upadhyay, the fourth Satsang Chalak later on, Raju Bhaiya and Nanaji Deshmukh. So they started a educational movement because we realized that the education being offered in the name of secularism was totally bereft of any value system, what we call Sanskriti. So the students who come out of the schools become totally rootless. They have no clue what India is. So apart from taking up the syllabus given by the government, they would also inculcate the spiritual values, the dharmic values in the students. So today there are around 30,000 schools run under Saraswati Shishu Mandir. A body called Vidya Bharati came up, which has under it now thousands of more schools, which are run by various organizations inspired by RSS. So they try to give certain direction to the education or the value system, even as they provide the education as per the government syllabus, government boards of education. You had Bharatiya Jansangh earlier on, which became Bharatiya Janata Party, which was started in 1952 by Dr. Mukherjee, Shama Prasad Mukherjee. And this particular political party was actually started by Shama Prasad Mukherjee, and he wanted help to have a national party. He was part of Hindu Mahasabha. He left Hindu Mahasabha and started an organization or political party which was wedded to national thoughts and not typically a Hindu party. So he came to RSS to seek help. Guruji was against politics. In the sense that he thought politics is not the end all, it cannot provide all the answers. It is people, the organizations at the grassroots level, which provide all the answers. So we need to strengthen them because unless the society changes, unless people work at grassroots level, politics has limitations. But having seen the ban after Gandhi assassination and battle of calumny and huge negativity, which even runs today from Nehru's time, other young followers of his who were working in RSS full time, they persuaded him, and some of the brightest luminaries of later on Bharatiya Janata Party, which was Jansangh. So Deen Dayal Upadhyay, Nanaji Deshmukh, then Atal Bihari Vajpayee, L.K. Advani, Jagannath Rao Joshi. Many such people were deputed to Jansangh and became a powerful force. Later, that's a different story. So, your education field, you have tribal field, you have a labor field, you have a student field. Then, of course, now you know about Ekal Vidyalaya. This whole idea was floated by a veteran Pracharak Shyam Gupta ji. Now, of course, it has been taken up by many organizations. It has become one of the biggest movements which was inspired by basically RSS. Now this movement has hundreds of schools which are in remote area belt, where there is one student, one teacher teaching students in any time they want, any subject they want, so they can go through the exams. There is Arogya Mitra there who are also trained in very basic, what you call medical issues. So when anybody falls sick, they can check the basic parameters, provide very preliminary medicines. If the case goes bad, they can be taken to the hospital. This entire service also has been initiated through Ekal Vidyalaya. So it's a huge activity. Then there is an organization which is for what Modi ji called Divyang, or physically handicapped, or people with mental disabilities. All there is an organization for them. Any walk of life, in fact, which you think of. Vivekananda Rock Memorial, which is run by Vivekananda Kendra, which runs research on yoga and various facets of Indian history, was also inspired by, was done in fact by, at that time, one of the leading lights, the Sir Kareva, General Secretary of RSS, was released from RSS and given for this project. And it took many years to complete the project. It is now one of the most inspiring projects in India. I can keep on naming suddenly. No, you can't remember all the organizations that are there. There are a lot of small organizations. There is Itihas Sankalan Samiti, very importantly, it's a small body which actually debunked the idea of Aryan invasion theory by doing research on the vanished Saraswati River, which defines the Indus Saraswati civilization, which totally debunked the Aryan invasion theory by searching for the entire river. River is not proven by satellite imagery. So you have Itihas Sankalan, you have Sanskrita Bharati, which has revived Sanskrit language like no other body has. There are now, I think, 20 or odd villages which speak in Sanskrit totally, from the sanitation worker to the temple priest. Everybody speaks in Sanskrit.
No, I think
They are trying to teach people in an easy way. Vishnu Parishad, of course, which is not really understood well. Vishnu Parishad was inspired by Guruji himself to reform the Hindu society. Ram Mandir came very late. He realized that all the Swamis, the Gurus, sit in the mutts. They look after the followers. They have their own small kingdom. Nobody comes out to support the vast majority of poor people, people who are deprived of their rights and their dignity in the society. So that is how Vishnu Parishad was formed, and also to take care of people of Indian origin outside Bharat. In fact, interesting story which you like to hear is that it was started by a prompting of a gentleman from Trinidad who came. He was a parliamentarian, Shambhuji Maharaj, I think, who came to India in search to say, where will my generation go? Where will my future Hindus go? Because beyond Ramayana they had nothing. So he came to India, went to many leaders. Nobody had an answer. Somebody guided him to Guruji. He talked about the dilemma of overseas Hindus. That is when Guruji realized something more needs to be done. So he sat with the Sandipani Ashram founder, Swami Chinmayananda, and Udupi Matham. These three people formed an idea. They founded the Vishnu Parishad in Mumbai. Then it had plenary session in Prayag, Kumbh, then in Udupi, where the idea of saying that Hindu are born of the same mother. Hindava Sahodara, that means they are brethren. They can't have different, caste or low or high. And Hindu na patito bhavet means, which means there is no Hindu who we can treat as fallen or untouchable. So this revolutionary idea, which was for the first time in India, first of all, for all the Hindu sects and various sampradayas to come together on one stage, was something that was not been done for at least 1,000 years. Before that, 1,000 years back in South, it had happened during the Hindu reigns there, but after that nothing happened. So this revolutionary idea of bringing every sampradaya on a single platform, right from Jain, Buddhist, and then Sikhs and hundreds of sampradayas on a single stage, they were brought together. Shankaracharya were there, and they passed the resolution. And imagine Shankaracharyas were the votaries of Varnashram. So Guruji's power was spiritual power. He was a sadhu of Vivekananda's Ramakrishna mission, but he decided to forego that sannyasi's role and he became full-time RSS pracharak. So Guruji had such moral force that even he could persuade Shankaracharyas to pass this resolution, which was a revolutionary resolution for reform of the Hindu society. He went all the way to Northeast to see that tribals are not treated as something different. When he proved that animist religion is nothing less than what it was part of Hindu ethos. For example, Naga Puja is done by South, it is done by various Hindus. It is not just part of native traditions of Northeast, which the British very cleverly called animist religion. Even today it is called that way. But they were part of larger group of people who worship nature, who saw God in nature. So all these things were done by Vishnu Parishad. They made the Swamijis to come on the roads. They would visit various Matham head would visit various communities, the so-called backward area, the scheduled caste, scheduled caste people. So the entire atmosphere was changed by Vishnu Parishad. So this is the service that actually Vishnu Parishad played in reforming the Hindu society. Then of course the Ram Temple came. That's a different history. Today
No,
there are 36 all India organizations in RSS who work for the welfare of society in different aspects of the social service to the nation. And of course, there are hundreds of small organizations. Today, the number of projects in India which are inspired by RSS are more than 130,000. So that's a huge number by any mark, and millions of people are served by them. So it's a huge humanist force with no negativity, all positivity. You cannot work your entire life on the basis of hate. It works on basis of affection for the society, affection for the nation. So that is what RSS has done.
no, I think only you can answer that question in such detail. Nobody else can answer. And I think in 5 minutes, what you covered, I think people will not. Now, one question, one point for the American viewers is, so one other thing is, there is a new academic term has come. Nationalism is bad, patriotism is good. And again, it's the left-driven ideology again. So what I want to say is, and I also want to hear,
I lost your voice.
yeah. What I want to say is that nationalism, what I was saying was, nationalism is good and nationalism is bad and patriotism is good. But in our opinion, in what we know, is that both are equally and synonymous with each other. So it is very much required for America as a country to progress, and it is required by any nation also to progress. So, keeping that thought in mind, I would like Ratan Chatterjee to comment the last points he has on this question.
Nationalism is constructed by the Western civilizational values. It came up around 300 years back, and it got notorious starting from World War One. The idea of nationalism actually set up the conditions of a country. So Bismarck had Germany. So what Germany did was what Bismarck died. The Germany idea of nation also changed. So this nationalism of West, which is a new terminology about 200-300 years back, which talks about nation state, which controls every aspect of life, is very different from the nationalism that India talks about. The nation state is not a concept of India. It is a cultural, geo-cultural terminology which India knows for last 5,000 years. So nation was defined in Vedas. At least it was named at least 72 times in the Veda itself. So if India had a concept of Rashtra, which is nation, which is more than 5,000 years back, linked to religion, it is linked to culture and geography. So you cannot really map the Indian idea of nationalism and nation with the Western idea, which is born just 200 years back. So So the bad idea of nationalism is mapped onto in Hindu idea of nationalism, and you have this, typical hate against the word nationalism. So you can avoid the word nationalism. You can talk national or person who love their nation, but it is not a bad idea as per Hindu terminology, which started thousands of years back. It is linked to the culture of the local people. It is linked to your geographical entity, not to religion. So every king who came to power in India in the thousands of years had his own religion, but it was not imposed on the state. Latest example you can talk of Shivaji, who was a Hindu king, but his entire rule was, even after by Marathas, was not linked to his idea of his own religion. So everybody got justice. There was no oppression against any religion, any sampradaya. So that is where we say that king is works on the idea of dharma, which I said earlier on. When you say dharma, it means ethical values. It means a lawful nature. It means following the values. And because dharma in our terminology says dharma which holds society together. Dharayat iti dharma, that dharma holds the society together. So dharma is what king owes to the society. My dharma as a student people, or dharma, everybody has a duty. That duty is linked to dharma, and that is a wider definition of dharma. That is a wider definition of nation. So you cannot really say that if I have to change my way of thinking as per the Western thinking, then yes, you can differentiate between nationalism and patriotism. But if you love your nation, that is patriotism. If for you nation is not dominating others, if by you nation doesn't mean being aggressive against others. India had huge empires, as you know. Southeast Asia was under kings from South, Pallavas, Cholas, and Cambodia, Thailand, and the entire Southeast Asia, which was ruled once by Hindu kings. But they never imposed their religion. There was no war related to imposition of religion. But people loved, they changed again, they converted from Hinduism to Buddhism, then many converted to Islam. But even today, Indonesia values its heritage of its Hindu civilization. So it's a totally civilization of dharmic concept, which doesn't impinge upon in any way with the religious values of any society. So and once we understand this concept of nationalism, then it is no more a hate word. And if you, in the very enlightened sense, if you love your nation, then that becomes patriotic. So this typical splitting of hair by west left is very common everywhere. It's not something new. In India, they say Hinduism is good, but Hindutva is bad. But what is Hindutva? Is its essence of Hindu. That Hindu thought itself, and why Hinduism? Is Christianism? Is Islamism? So when you say Hinduism, you are making an ideology, and you say if you are framing up the entire community in an ideology, wherein in the Indian thought process, there is no bound. I mean, you can keep on changing our ideas. You can invent new religions. You can invent new philosophies. We have even people who don't believe in God as Hindus. We have rishis like Charvaka who said, even if you want to enjoy life, even if you want to enjoy life, take ghee on loan, the butter on loan, enjoy life. Who knows the next life? So for us, everybody is respectable. As new reformers come, we start respecting them also. So you cannot really have this narrow-minded approach to these terminologies.
So, to summarize, viewers, dharma is different from any of the religion or any of the words we talk about. It is a very open, it's an open architecture. It allows free flow of ideas. There is a complete freedom which is ensured and which is vastly different than the Western religious ideas or Abrahamic faith, where you're tied to a book. When you think outside the book, that means you are violating the principles. But in Dharma, you can be an atheist also, and then also you are welcome. But at the same time, for people who are theistic, there is a path for them to progress on that way. So thank you so much, Ratan Shardaji. We'll end here, and we'll come back again for the next topic. And
Thanks for your time.
thank you all the viewers who are watching it. Keep subscribing and join us in San Diego for our annual convention in November. Thank you.
Thank you.